In the dead of night, a $2 billion ghost slides through the sky, a 100-ton aircraft that shows up on radar as a single pigeon. By the end of this video, you'll know exactly how that's possible, and why this plane is really a monument to fear. What a country will build when it's scared enough of losing. Honestly, by the end, you might agree it shouldn't exist at all. A stealth bomber built to slip past the most sophisticated air defenses on Earth, deliver a payload powerful enough to alter the course of history, and vanish again before anyone even knew it was there. And here's the twist. The technology that made it possible wasn't new. It was dreamed up more than 3 decades earlier, and then the Air Force killed it. Hey, welcome back. And today we're diving into the secrets of the B-2 Spirit, the stealth bomber that revolutionized aerial warfare. From its Cold War origins to its cutting-edge technology, we're about to find out how this ghostly giant changed the game of global security, and why it almost never existed at all. But before we get to why this plane almost didn't survive its own government, we need to understand why the world needed it in the first place. The year is 1975. The Cold War is at its frostiest, and the nuclear standoff between the United States and the Soviet Union is reaching a breaking point. Squadrons of B-52 bombers sit on constant alert, each one loaded with enough firepower to level entire cities. They're the backbone of America's nuclear deterrent. But the Soviets have been busy. They've built air defenses advanced enough to sweep these flying fortresses out of the sky like flies. As one Air Force general put it, sending B-52s into Soviet airspace would be like throwing a rock at a hornet's nest while wearing a bright red target on your chest. Read that back. The plane built to protect an entire country was suddenly the one in danger. Here's the problem with nuclear deterrence. It only works if the enemy believes you can strike back. If the Soviets thought they could wipe out America's bomber fleet before it left the ground, the temptation for a first strike gets a lot more dangerous. So the Air Force does the only thing it can. It changes the game entirely. Enter the Advanced Technology Bomber Program. The goal? Build a bomber that could slip past Soviet defenses like a ghost. Engineers called it like trying to build an invisible elephant. And remember that twist from a minute ago? Someone had already tried. Rewind to 1946. World War II has just ended, and while most of America is building cars and suburban houses, Jack Northrop is obsessed with a different kind of construction. His vision? The flying wing. An aircraft that's all wing, no fuselage, no tail. It looked like it flew straight out of a science fiction magazine. In 1947, that dream took flight as the YB-49, a jet-powered flying wing with a 50-meter wingspan, decades ahead of its time. But without modern computers to control it, the YB-49 was genuinely hard to fly. And after a string of crashes, mounting costs, and a bitter contract fight with a rival manufacturer, the Air Force canceled the program in 1949 and scrapped the fleet. Officially, it just wasn't ready. Unofficially, there are still people who think politics killed it as much as physics did. Fast forward to 1978. The Advanced Technology Bomber Program needs a plane that can sneak through the most heavily defended airspace on Earth. And who wins the contract? Northrop. The flying wing gets its second act, this time backed by decades of new technology and a blank check from the US government. But knowing what to build and actually building it are two very different problems. How do you take a 100-ton aircraft with a wingspan as wide as a football field and make it invisible to radar? The first trick is the shape. No fuselage, no tail, just one continuous wing. That shape gives the aircraft an incredibly low radar cross-section, basically how visible it is to enemy radar, and makes it remarkably efficient for a plane built to fly halfway around the world. The second trick is the skin. Classified radar-absorbent materials, large, smooth panels, almost no seams, because every edge is a chance for a radar wave to bounce back. Picture a sleek sports car with no rough edges, if that sports car were the size of a warehouse. But shape and skin alone weren't enough. There was one more problem, and it nearly sank the whole project. The flying wing shape brings back the old instability issue. No tail means the aircraft wants to yaw and pitch, tilting side to side. The fix is a flight computer with 4 backups of itself, making hundreds of tiny adjustments every second just to keep the thing pointed the right way. Take the computers offline, and the B-2 doesn't fly. It tumbles. Then there's the engines. 4 turbofans buried deep in the airframe. Intakes hidden on top of the wing so there's no shiny fan blade to reflect radar. The exhaust is cooled and spread wide to kill its heat signature. The whole airframe is carbon graphite composite, built section by section with the precision of a Swiss watchmaker. One tiny misalignment, and a multi-billion-dollar stealth bomber becomes an extremely expensive radar reflector. By the late 80s, the pieces were finally coming together. Years of secrecy, billions of dollars, and a concept the Air Force had once scrapped for parts were about to collide in a single moment. But a stealthy shape sitting in a hangar means nothing until it proves itself in the air. And on November 22, 1988, the world was about to find out if any of this actually worked. The hangar doors open, and the world gets its first look at the future. Rows of reporters and cameras watch as the B-2 rolls out, and it looks like nothing anyone has ever seen fly before, like it was beamed down from a science fiction movie. Under the skin, more than 130 onboard computers are running the aircraft in real time. Its radar cross-section comes out 1,000 times smaller than the B-52's. On a screen, this 100-ton bomber shows up like a single pigeon. Then, on July 17, 1989, the B-2 takes its first flight. And it doesn't just fly, it flies well. Decades of theory, an invisible elephant that engineers said couldn't exist, is suddenly airborne. And once it's flying, the numbers get almost hard to believe. 20 tons of payload. That's enough to carry the GBU-57, a 13-ton bunker buster, built to punch through a target buried underground. Oh, and the range? Past 11,000 kilometers on a single tank, roughly New York to Moscow, with fuel left over. It can climb to 50,000 feet, nearly higher than Mount Everest stacked on itself. And if GPS goes down mid-mission, the crew just navigates by the stars. This is a plane that can show up uninvited anywhere on Earth and leave before anyone even knows it was there. So here's the plane at its most extreme. Stealthier than anything before it, capable of striking any target on the planet, and only 21 of them were ever built. Which brings us to the number that makes all of this feel almost absurd. Each B-2 costs about $2 billion. That is more than the entire GDP of some small countries. For the price of one B-2, you could buy roughly 5,000 average American homes. So is it worth it? Supporters would say you cannot put a price tag on the ability to strike anywhere on Earth without ever being detected, and that alone is what keeps a war from starting in the first place. Critics would say that is an enormous amount of money resting on 21 aircraft. Both are kind of right. Remember, this thing was always a monument to fear, and a monument to fear only works if it's expensive enough to be believed. That tension is exactly why this plane feels like it shouldn't exist, and yet here it is, flying today. Even the B-2 isn't the end of the story. The Air Force is already building what comes next. The B-21 Raider. Smaller, cheaper, and built to fly in numbers, the B-2 never could. If you want the full breakdown of that one, let me know in the comments, and hit subscribe so you don't miss it. Because somewhere out there, right now, the B-21 is already flying missions nobody's supposed to know about.